Hey everyone, it's week 14 with the NFL fantasy matchup. We're coming in from Chicago. Tommy's in Orlando, and this week we got Chris from Arizona, who's part of our 1K league. Tommy's only here for a few minutes. He jumped in before meetings that he has for work so he can go off on his waiver wire mishap this morning. Tom, go ahead.
Chris, Jed, let me just complain about something, all right? I had $25 and I was sitting there watching Christian McCaffrey gets injured. I said, oh, he's going to be out for the year. Right away, Jordan Mason, $25, put everything in. Next thing you know, later that night, Jordan Mason's put on IR. I said, oh, I'm going to do it and I'm going to get Isaiah Correndo or Isaac Correndo. I thought I did it. I swore I did it. Did I dream it? I don't know. But this morning I woke up and I said, oh, I cannot wait. I'm going to fill in the hole that I have. I see Jordan Mason on my bench with $25. I forgot.
And guess who ended up Garendo? I got Garendo because I put in $15 and I was like, there's no way I'm going to get it. I ended up getting him.
Now, the good thing is with this other league that Jimmy and I are in, with our friends that we've been there for 20 something years, I'm in first place. So I'm doing really well. But I made this trade and I traded for Puka Nakua, J.K. Dobbins, and someone else for Joe Burrow and Garrett Wilson. I said, great. I have a wonderful trade. Garrett Wilson is not doing well for me. So I was thinking Garendo would replace Garrett Wilson. That was my plan to go to the championship.
That's hilarious, Tommy. Well, it's a good reminder to always check your waiver bids. On Tuesday night, we were just talking about we're going to try to record more on Mondays and Tuesdays so we can make sure we help with waiver wire picks. But that could be the pickup really of the second half of the season for the playoffs. Like that could be the one getting a lead back out of San Francisco that could really carry you.
Don't remind me because I will be sitting there during the Bears game and I'm going to be so frustrated when he gets 15 carries, 120 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I'm just going to scream because I had a chance to pick him up.
Chris, we were talking about because a lot of times we tape on Fridays, right? And so Jed and Tommy was saying we should tape on Mondays and Tuesdays, so that people will know like what waivers to pick up. And I said, no way, because the last thing I want is for these guys to even know what my waiver wire pickups are. I'll do it on Wednesday after I've picked up everybody, because I don't know if you guys know this. So I set my waiver lineups, but I'm what 2 or 3 hours depending on time zones away from you guys.
Yep.
I get up at 1:00 in the morning to make sure I look for all the players that no one has picked up. And so I'll scoop them up. So this morning I was like up at 1:15 looking around on the waiver wires.
That's commitment, Jimmy. I'm impressed. That's real commitment.
That's how I get some of my guys. So
you know what's funny about Isaiah Garendo is the fact that I thought I put a waiver wire in for him for $24. So I don't know how I didn't get him.
Wait, is this for the 1K league, right? Jed ended up getting him.
No, I got him. I got him because I spent $45,
that's what it was.
Which was $1 more than Tommy had because Tommy has 44, and so I was like, oh no, Team Superman he has 45, so I spent 46 to make sure that I got more than him. But that was almost all of mine. I think I've got like $10 left or something.
Yeah.
And honestly, Chris, I really needed Garendo in that 1K league because I am just at the tip. So I actually have to win this week to move up.
So am I. I'm in the same space. So I'm 7-6. I think we're in the same place.
No, you guys are better than Tommy. There's this one guy named Mark. Mark was not doing anything. Mark was in last place. And now he's beat both of you guys. I think he's like in 6th place. And Tom, how the heck did you fall down to 9th place in that league?
Let me just say the reason why Kyler Murray stinks, Garrett Wilson stinks, and then Chuba Hubbard got me 2 points. That's why.
Well, that's because Jonathan Brooks is starting to get some of his playing time as well, too.
Yeah. So he has been terrible for me recently. Chuba Hubbard is not, and Garrett Wilson has been such a disappointment.
Yeah. Oh, Chris, you've got Lamar Jackson on bye this week.
I know that's where I'm.
Brian Robinson, that's trouble.
I know. I'm in some real trouble, and that's where if I don't win, that's where.
Well, let's see. You got Geno Smith.
I did just pick up Geno Smith last night.
That was good.
So that's my only hope So there you go.
I
I
was
haven't looked at
just looking.
Is
Yeah, I was
Russell
just
Wilson
looking at
and
waivers.
Jameis Winston out there?
No,
Russell
not in our
Wilson,
league.
not in our league.
Yeah. Yeah, not in our
Yeah.
league. But if, for those of you out there who need a quarterback because you've got a Lamar Jackson on bye or one of the other buys, I was just going to say that Russell Wilson is sitting on a bunch of waivers. That is a very good pickup. He's a top 10 QB for this week. Would be a great
Yeah.
bye week fill in. So you can make that move. Jameis Winston, well, you just got to go with the interceptions.
What about Aaron Rodgers? Why aren't you talking about him?
Well, he's at the top of our waivers, but let's look at
No,
what is his.
he's inconsistent. I don't trust him. Russell Wilson, that guy scored almost 27 fantasy points, 414 yards passing, 3 touchdowns last week. He's on a roll.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers the last 3 weeks, 4 points, 15 points, 14 points. So okay, so I guess if you're desperate, but not great.
I mean, Derek Carr has a really good matchup.
Yeah, against the Giants, that's a good call. That could be another.
That's the only one. As I sit here and I look at it, for those that really need help, like I do, because he might actually do better than who I have now. So.
Hey, guys, do you know if it's the top 3 teams in each league or is it the top 4 teams in each league?
Oh, I think it's I don't know. I think it's the top 4. I think it's total 8. So you need to get into, because you're 9th ranked right now. You need to get into the 8th place.
Oh,
we
it's
have
the
8
top.
teams making. It's not the top 6.
I thought it was 6.
You know what? I thought it was 8. Let me double check. Let me go ahead. I think it was. Maybe we changed it for this to make it more competitive.
Because we have 2 divisions. For those of you guys listening, in the 1K league, again, we got to shout out our sponsors. We've got 12 teams and 2 divisions. And so I actually personally hate divisions, but basically you need to be in the top. It looks like, is it the top? It's the top 3 because it's 6 teams. There's 6 teams in the playoffs, and we have 3 teams, 3-week playoff from the 15th, 16th, and 17th. So you got to be in the top 3
right.
in
It
each
is
division in order to make the playoffs. And so Chris is right there on the edge. Jimmy and I are in 3rd and 4th. We're okay right now, but we'll see. We could still fall out because it is really tight. This league has been very competitive, which has been a lot of
Tom,
fun.
I forgot that we made it competitive, so we picked the 6 teams versus 8.
I like that. I don't like. I like 6 because that's exactly what the NFL is like. You feel like it's about like 50%.
No, yeah. So guys like my brother who can squeak in at the end without his injured players aren't going to be able to win for these things.
Yeah, I really want to win this 1K league. It looks like I'm going to be out with 8th place because, especially if we're looking at the top 4 teams, I won't get in.
Well, I'll tell you this: Mark's rad team, I was with him. This was a month ago. He almost quit because he was like, "I'm done. I'm in last place. There's nothing else I can do." And look at him now; he's actually doing pretty well. So he might sneak in for that last place.
Exactly. He needs a win, and he needs you, Chris, and Steven to lose, and then he could actually squeak in, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Oh no, he'd have to beat you guys on points. You know what? He's got a tough road actually. Yeah. You're okay, Chris. You just got to win, and then you can beat Steve's team. Although he's got ahead of you on points too.
But I'll tell you this: for Week 14, for a guy like Lamar Jackson to be out, and some of these strong players to be out as we're entering the playoffs, that's a bad move by NFL. All right. Before we jump,
I don't think the NFL is thinking about fantasy football.
They don't
That's
care.
okay. I mean,
yeah,
they're making a lot of money by adding that extra game. So
that's for sure.
Chris, introduce yourself before we jump into waiver wire pickups and week 13 schedules or week 14 schedules.
I'm Chris Rothard. I'm from Chandler, Arizona. I'm the Chandler Young Life Area Director. Love community here. We working with the city, working with the city of Chandler Unified School District. Hey, by the way, we've got some NFL players from Brock Purdy is from a Chandler high school.
Woo!
We've got oh my goodness, there's a long list of players from Chandler high schools. Brian Urlacher's son plays at Notre Dame right now. Dylan Raiola at Nebraska, starting quarterback there, played for Chandler for a year.
Nice.
So, we're a football powerhouse. So I used to carry some players from I used to always pick up players that were from Chandler just so that I could be like, hey, I've got you on my team.
Love it.
Hey, Chris, I'm hoping for Brock Purdy to do decently well. I mean, they're playing against the Bears, but I do need Juwan Jennings to really have a good game here.
And Chris, why are you a Bears fan if you're down in Arizona?
I grew up in Illinois.
Okay.
So first 30 years of my life was in Illinois. And so I went to the University of Illinois with Jimmy.
That's where we met, Jed.
We met there.
Nice.
Yeah, my wife was the same class as him, or a year behind. And so yeah, we've known each other since then.
So guys, Chris's daughter is what is she, like a sports major or a business major?
She's a sports business major.
And she's working for the ASU football team, who's actually going to the championship game this week in Dallas.
If I could pick up Scattaboo right now, I think I could win most leagues. So I'll pick him up with ASU and we'll see what happens. That kid, that guy is a beast in college football. I don't think he's going to make it in the NFL. Yeah. He's got 5 too many concussions, I think. He shakes his head.
Yeah. Chris, the only reason I know that is because I've got 2 or 3 planes going down to Dallas from Arizona this week. They're going down they're leaving it here at 7:00. They come here for the game, and then we're shuttling them back home afterwards. And these guys paid big money to go to that game.
Well, you should have gotten Annabelle on that flight. Come on.
Yeah,
she didn't make the list. Yeah. She's going to be up at Young Life Camp with me this week.
Oh, really? So. That's funny.
Hey, side note, I know we're talking about fantasy football, but I haven't been paying attention to college football. Oregon, Texas, SMU, Boise State is top 4. Notre Dame is number 6. Indiana Hoosiers is top 10. Where is Illinois? Do they just stink?
No,
they've only lost 3 games. Whoa. Why are you talking smack? They've only lost 3 games. They lost to 2 top 25 teams. Come on.
Tom, did you know that Oregon is part of the Big Ten? So now they're playing Penn State this week because Ohio State lost.
Yeah. Oklahoma and Texas are in the SEC now, which is another big change. But Tommy, college football has been great this year. I'm a huge fan of college football. This is the first year of the playoff. So we got 12 teams that are going to be playing.
Yeah, I know. It'll be pretty cool with 12 teams.
It's going to be great. And this year has been nuts. Like the number of upsets has been phenomenal. It reminds me of the NFL. It's like you have this nice parity where there's, any team you really feel like can get a chance to squeak in. So you should follow. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, seriously, I'm looking at it. Illinois is 9-3. Wow, I didn't realize that.
Pretty good. Mm-hmm. And then Michigan lost last week at Ohio State. Ohio State was number 2 ranked.
No, Michigan won. Michigan beat Ohio State.
Yeah, Michigan. Yeah. So Ohio State's number 2 ranked. So they're not in the championship with Big Ten championship. So Penn State is now in there playing against Oregon. And actually, I can see Penn State potentially beating Oregon as well too.
And then Indiana's only got 1 loss, which is crazy.
To Ohio State, right? Didn't they lose to Ohio State? Yeah. So I don't know. All right, week 14. Let's run through a couple of these things. Hold on, let me pull up
one last thing on college football. I'll say for those of you who to connect it to fantasy football. It's cool because you can see the stars, like Chris was just saying, and you make the judgment of, do you think they're going to make the jump to the NFL? Mm-hmm. And so, of course, right now, Sanders out in Colorado, everyone's paying attention to him, potential Heisman candidate. But it's really interesting to see those stars at the college level and then see if they really can translate into the NFL. And then that can become your first pick. Or a pick for you, not your first pick, but a pick for you in your fantasy rounds following.
Well, it's usually the rookie players that win the league. It's who you draft at the beginning. This year I struck out. That's my problem.
All right, this week we got 6 teams on bye: Denver Broncos, the Colts, the Commanders, the Patriots, the Ravens, and the Houston Texans. And we've got also, I think we just talked earlier, we got a couple key injuries with Christian McCaffrey and Jordan Mason out. So I'm going to throw it to you, Jed. Who are a couple folks that you want to pick up, especially maybe that kid from San Francisco to take over for McCaffrey and Mason being out?
Yeah, we just talked about that. I mean, a bunch of us were spending a lot of time, if you haven't already or people in your league somehow haven't picked up Isaiah Guerrero from San Francisco. I spent $46 to get
I
him
mean, you spent
on
all your money
waivers. I spent
essentially.
all my money
Yeah.
to get him. He's going to be the starting running back for San Francisco. Even though San Francisco's had a down year, you guys know that's one of the systems. San Francisco, Seattle, Denver. Those are the
Mm-hmm.
running
Mm-hmm.
systems where those lead starting running backs just get their yards. And
Yeah.
so, particularly going into trying to most leagues, this is either this week or next week is going to be the last week heading into your playoff. So if you can get him. It'd be a great replacement for any of your starters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jen, honestly, with the San Francisco running game, their blocking scheme, that's why I was willing to put all this money in there. Every time San Francisco, the Denvers of the world, they just do really well especially with Mike Shanahan there.
Yep,
Tom,
exactly.
who else are you looking at waiver wires for this week?
You know what? I was looking at Jameis Winston as a quarterback. The other one I was also looking at was Westbrook over in Tennessee. If you needed a wide receiver, but literally I was just focusing on Grendel pretty much and seeing if I could get him as we entered this last week of playoffs.
Yeah, a couple other guys I'll mention. You guys know I like Jalen Warren in Pittsburgh, even though he's back up to Najee Harris. He had a better game than Harris last week. So that guy is almost becoming a split, similar to the Detroit situation. If he is sitting out there, or if you have him, don't be scared to start him. I've been starting him now in a couple leagues. The other person I'll mention is Jerome Ford. Out in Cleveland. I don't know why, if there's something wrong with Chubb. That's the only thing I can think of. But they've been slowly increasing his touches. So he actually had a decent amount of touches compared to Chubb last week in that huge game that the Browns had. So Ford is someone, if you're desperate, you can consider.
Also, Elijah Moore in Cleveland.
Yep.
He's been killing it with Jameis Winston as the quarterback.
Yeah. Well, I think all of the. I mean, Winston had a great game. He threw for over 400 yards. The only thing is, he could have technically won that game.
Three
but he threw that
interceptions.
interception. Yeah, that's
Well,
the
and two run backs for touchdowns.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, I don't know who had the Denver. You had the Denver defense. You probably had like 50 plus points from them.
Yeah, but they gave up a lot of points as well too. Jerry Jeudy, I knew because it was a comeback game. Jerry Jeudy was going to do well. So
there's been a lot about Valdez-Scantling too.
Oh, from New Orleans.
In New Orleans, yeah, because he doesn't have anybody else to throw the ball to, especially with the tight end out.
Yeah. So, Jed, one of the things last week they interviewed the coach for Cleveland in the Monday Night Football game, and they asked him because that was one of the things that they noticed is how come Nick Chubb hasn't been out there, right? And essentially, he just said he's going with the hot hand, and I guess it wasn't Nick Chubb, it was what's his name,
Jerome Ford.
Jerome Ford had the hot hand, but then towards the end, if you saw, he made up for it by scoring that touchdown. So at least he had a touchdown and had double.
No, he did. And guys, actually, that was my favorite prop bet in that game was the Jerry Jeudy revenge game. I had him for 100 plus yards and a touchdown. Guys, you have to look at revenge games. Anytime you got a player going back against a team that he left, and especially if he didn't leave on good terms, the whole team knows that they want to feed this guy and get him. It's a great way to take advantage both in fantasy and in betting.
Yeah. I think Geno Smith, Chris talked about him. I think Geno Smith is a good pickup this week. For those of you who are out there, here let me tell you guys something that I'm struggling with. Right, Patrick Mahomes has been in my starter 3 out of my 8 leagues. He's averaging double digits, usually under 20 points. Right, on the waiver wires in a number of these leagues, you got Russell Wilson, you got Herbert, you got Brock Purdy. Is it time for me to potentially, as I go into these playoffs, switch out Patrick Mahomes for one of these quarterbacks, even a Caleb Williams?
I would start Russell Wilson over him.
Yeah,
really.
I can't believe you're still starting him. I thought
most
people,
he's good. Or he's traditionally.
Yeah. He wins. He wins games. He doesn't put up numbers. I mean, when he was young, he put up a ton of numbers. Now he's all about managing the game.
Yeah, that's exactly. I was going to say he's a perfect example of the difference between fantasy versus real life. Real life, it's probably top 3 quarterback you want running your team. But fantasy wise, I don't think he's I don't even know if he's top 10 anymore. So to say that he's not your starter, I think if you're in a 10-team league, I think that's fine. He could be sitting on your bench. So I totally agree with you, Chris. I think, Jimmy, you should go ahead and start, what's his face, in in the Steelers.
Russell
Well,
Wilson.
I do think as we get into the playoffs, you're going to see him light it up. And he's more of a playoff quarterback when it comes to numbers. Also, he's going to get his receivers back. Hollywood Brown's coming. It
Oh
sounds
yeah,
like
Hollywood Brown's actually
he's
he should be
getting
coming up in a couple weeks, right?
a
Yeah, he's
couple
got
people.
Pacheco coming back, or at least should be back by this week.
I will tell you on dynasty leagues, look at Tyquan Thornton. I think he is going to be a stud next year. He has speed. He was somebody as a rookie that I was high on 2 years ago, and he hasn't had a quarterback yet. You have somebody that can drop him the ball that runs what I think at 3.2 40.
Yeah,
They've got four of the fastest 5 players in the NFL right now on Kansas City, I think, or it's 3 of 4.
yeah. Is that even counting Hollywood Brown?
No, that counts Hollywood Brown.
Oh, that
It's
does.
Hollywood.
Okay.
The 4 actually they've had
Xavier?
4 or 5. It was Hollywood, Xavier, Tyquan, and then also Tyreek Hill. So 4 of
Tyreek
them
Hill,
have
yeah.
played
Yeah.
for the Chiefs. So,
You know, guys, I'll say this on the Chiefs too. I have Noah Gray, the second tight end.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I think he's actually playable. I've been playing him in a couple leagues, and I think even though he's the number 2 tight end, there's enough going around that you could score. He had scored 2 touchdowns in a couple different weekends, so he's playable.
Yeah.
I think tight end's one of the spaces that I've really struggled this year.
Yeah,
'Cause I took some sleepers. You know, you had the guy in Jacksonville. I had a lot of high hopes for him. Ingram,
yeah.
And Hill. Everybody goes for Hill.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Taysom Hill's always fun to own.
Yeah. I lucked out this year because I waited quite a bit in my leagues for a tight end, and Brock Bowers was sitting there towards the end, and I scooped him up, and so he's been my surprise pick out of because I had Trey McBride in one, and I also picked up Brock Bowers, and he's been my surprise pick.
Oh, McBride's been fine, but Bowers has been the clear number 1. I mean, that guy has been so dominant. I mean, in our 1K league, we have Brower and the boys is that they named their team, and it's right. He's been carrying that team. But Chris, you bring up a really good point about, you know, Mahomes maybe in the first week of the playoffs starting to turn on. I think that's something important to pay attention to as you're setting your lineups. You know, who are the guys that in the playoffs, like what do they look like in the playoffs versus what do they look like in the regular season? And there is a difference. And so you got to pay attention to those matchups because you want to really key in on those matchups.
Yeah,
Well, and I started off the year really good in several of my leagues with the rookie from the New York Giants who just fell off after
Neighbors.
when he got after he got that concussion.
Yeah, Neighbors was a great pick.
Yeah, I've got a couple questions for you guys. Bigsby and ETN from the Jaguars is out there on all waiver wires. You guys picking up any of them? I mean,
I've got both of them in one of my leagues. I'm stuck.
I mean, they're playing Tennessee, so that's the good news, right? Like, there's potential there. It's hopefully, I'm trying to look. Yeah, it's interesting. The line is 40 points. The NFL is not thinking there's going to be a lot of scoring. Vegas is not thinking there's going to be a lot of scoring. But if you saw that hit that Trevor Lawrence took, I'm thinking, I don't know if that guy should be playing, man. That guy did the whole, fetal position. And, I mean, that was a scary hit. So I don't know if I'd be confident going in. But if you don't have a choice, Chris, I feel like you at least got it. I mean, it's not.
Oh, yeah. I think Bigsby, it depends on is it a full point PPR, half point PPR.
Yeah.
I think half point PPR, you go Bigsby. He's got a better chance of putting up hard numbers. ETN just hasn't looked like what he has looked like in the past. I would almost go Bigsby even in a full point PPR just because I think he's got more of a chance to pop off.
Yeah, more of a chance to score too.
Yeah. How about Caleb Williams, new coach? Thomas Brown is now promoted. They actually just promoted the wide receivers coach to be the new offensive coordinator. His stats have not been bad. Like, would you guys pick up a Caleb Williams, even potentially on a dynasty league?
I think San Francisco's defense is a little too good. That's the only thing. Otherwise, my answer would be yes. I think I still think that the Bears don't want to win, but at the same, they know they're out of the playoffs. But the 49ers are still kind of in it, and so they're going to be mad, and they really got beat up on Monday night or Sunday.
Yeah, I hear you, Chris. I agree. I think 49ers are going to come out pretty upset, and it's going to be a tough defense to go against. That being said, if you look at the splits of Caleb Williams with Brown as the offensive coordinator and calling the shots versus Eberflus or whoever was calling that, it's amazing. Like Caleb is a different quarterback. So I do think Caleb long term is someone fantasy wise you could have played. I agree. I think it's a tough matchup against San Francisco. But again, if you're just this is the week you got to take home run shots, right? Like you're trying to get your win. You got to go for the big. It could be one that Caleb could go off in this game. We can see they're going to be behind, but he could get his stats.
Chris said something interesting. I don't know what you guys think. I actually think the players like Thomas Brown. So
yeah.
yes, they want to lose so they can get better draft pick, but I actually think that they might win and do well because they want Thomas. For some reason, like some of these players, and I don't know if I agree with this or not, but they lost trust in Eberflus and they were outspoken, about that as well too.
Well, and I'm so surprised that Williams did not do better. He had so much talent around him. He has no offensive line. That's his biggest problem. But you've seen flashes of what he can do. And so, yes, I think the future is bright. But at the same time, I'm a Bears fan and I don't want him to win because I'd rather get the better draft pick. So they need a good offensive lineman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like Cleveland too. If you look at the Browns situation, they're out of it. But man, they were playing hard and they played a tough game. It looked like they were going to catch up on Denver. So I think the Bears are in a similar situation where you see the players. You're right, Jimmy. I think they're going to play hard for the new coach.
Yeah.
So
I actually think Thomas Brown. I mean, you never know, right? Like reports out of Chicago is that they're really looking at that guy from Notre Dame. They're really talking about Ben Johnson from Detroit. I actually think that if you see a good showing from Thomas Brown, who I actually think is a decent coach, he might actually be given the permanent head coach position.
Yeah. He's under the Sean Payton coaching tree, and Payton gave him his vote of confidence. So that's, I don't know, we'll see.
Yeah. All right. Hey, we've got a little bit of time. So let's run through in these next few minutes. Let's run through a couple of these games, right? Thursday night football game. We'll start with you, Chris. Detroit is favored by 3.5 points over the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay, I mean, both of them are actually doing well. I mean, they're 1-2 in the league in that division. Detroit won against the Bears. Chris, who are you saying will win? And then the other question is, who do you think will do well in that game fantasy-wise?
I do think Detroit's going to come out and win. I think the reason is that they really struggled in the second half of that Thanksgiving game, and it made them look bad. Better coaching. I do think Jared Goff could go off a little bit. One of the reasons is because I'm starting him in one of my leagues that I have a quarterback out, and so I need him to. I think also Jamar Gibbs with that fumble in the game, he looked really good, and that really kind of scarred his overall performance. Those are my two. Yeah.
Yeah, I would. This is a game, guys. I would get all of your starters in. It's got the highest, I think, the highest line. Yeah, they're 51.5. So again, Vegas thinks there's going to be a lot of scoring. Basically, get all your Green Bay guys in, get all your Detroit guys in. I'm looking at both Montgomery, Gibbs to go off. I like, and we saw a little sign of Laporta last week, right? We've been waiting for Laporta. Yeah,
touchdowns
came around.
Right?
Yep. Yeah, so I think you could start to see, and actually on the air, they were saying how the commentators were saying how the coaches were saying they were making a point to get Laporta ready for the playoffs. And so I think if you've been waiting, or if you didn't play him last week, get him in there. But this is going to be a high scoring game. At least I hope. Should be a really fun game to watch on a Thursday.
Also, Williams got 7 targets. Jamison Williams got 7 targets, even though he's had his problems.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. Jed, Browns and Steelers. I actually think this will be pretty high scoring as well too. The Browns, I mean, we talked about Winston threw for over 400 yards, had close to over 30 fantasy points this week. Steelers are rolling. Who you picking in that game?
Yeah, so I actually disagree with you though, Tommy. I don't think it's going to be high scoring because this division,
because of defense, right?
Well, this division, they beat each other up, man, and they know each other so well. And anytime the Browns play Pittsburgh or the Ravens, it's a fight. And so I do think it's going to be closer than people think. I think they've got Pittsburgh is out by 6.5 point favorite, But man, in division games, again, I think the Cleveland team is playing hard for Jameis Winston. So I think, the running backs I would look at. I think Chubb, we talked about. Ford still getting a little bit of run. Najee Harris and Jalen Warren. I do think Russell Wilson has really been cooking. If you need a player a quarterback to start, you can get him. So I don't know it's going to be high scoring, but should be a fun game to watch, and definitely a bruiser.
Last game, that they played, Nick Chubb actually scored 2 touchdowns. I actually think that the running game, the running backs, especially Jalen Warren, Nick Chubb, I actually think that they're going to do well this week.
I think it's going to be a running game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris,
the other thing to say, guys, is check the weather. In places, in games like that, check the weather if there's snow, because exactly like you said, Chris, if it's like the Browns versus Denver, it's just you can't throw, you just got to run.
No, it's like last week. Buffalo. Who did Buffalo play in that snow game? Right?
Yeah, San Francisco.
I mean, that's why McCaffrey got injured, right? That's why none of those receivers were getting anything. By the first quarter, I think James Cook had close to 50 or 60 rushing yards already.
You know what sucks about McCaffrey? Right before, there was 2 plays before the play he got injured on, which is not the play he went down on. But 2 plays before that, he was about to break, it was like an 80-yard run. It was a shoestring tackle. And just in my mind, I think if he hadn't been tackled there and he had made it through, in my mind, I'm like, would he have gotten hurt? Because the guy was looking good. I feel so bad for him because, man, what a tough year for the guy.
Yeah. So, anyways, Chris, you like Russell Wilson, don't you?
I do. I just like what he's doing right now. So Russell Wilson, but the biggest issue, I love his ball. I feel like he's got his deep ball back a little bit, and he's got some good receivers. I don't think that's something he never had in Denver, where they never connected. And so he's connecting. The players are playing for him. I think he's the future of Pittsburgh right now.
I also feel like Tomlin is really, to me, this is where the coaches make a difference, right? Like in Denver, I felt like they didn't play to Wilson's strengths, whereas Tomlin has totally designed the offense around what he's good at, which to me, like you said, beautiful deep ball, but those short, quick, get the ball out of his hands. He played to that strength, and he's looked great.
Well, and they're bringing in Fields, and it's not making anybody upset. They enjoy playing for Tomlin. I would agree. That's why he's the longest tenured coach in the NFL right now. I believe that's right.
Yeah, and never had a losing season, guys. 18 seasons has never had that blows me away. To be in the NFL 18 seasons without a losing season is just nuts.
I mean, George Pickens, last 3 out of 4 games, he scored a touchdown. Yep. He's a good bet these weeks. I mean, I would say I think ESPN just listed him as, they thought he's like one of the top 5 receivers at least right now in terms of fantasy. And I actually agree with him because fantasy wise, he's doing pretty well.
Oh, the other guy I'll say is Njoku on the Cleveland Browns was clearly a safety blanket for Jameis Winston. So Njoku has definitely, that connection is alive and well, and you should definitely be playing Njoku.
Actually, there's a couple tight ends out there speaking of tight ends, right? Jonnu Smith from Miami is doing well. Yes. Njoku is back. Yeah. Ferguson has started to pick up in Dallas, even with Cooper Rush. And so if you need a tight end out there, a couple of those guys are pretty good.
I like Jonnu Smith. I wish I would have taken a shot on him. I went with Kraft instead.
Yeah, I've got Kraft on one of my benches too. He's okay, though. Watch Kraft have a good game this week. You never know. I mean, that would be good. Yeah.
All right, Jed, this is for you, okay? Falcons versus Vikings. You know what this means?
Revenge game. But the problem is Kirk Cousins has looked horrible, guys. Yes. He's looked terrible the last 4 weeks. He has just I thought he was turning things around. They were starting to pick things up, but I've got Kyle Pitts in one league, and he's had 2 points, I think, every week. So that's the problem is can you turn it around? And whereas Minnesota has been cooking, it's reminded me a little bit of Kansas City where they're figuring out how to win. It's not just about winning big, it's about winning when, things go wrong. And so I think this is a tough game for Cousins. I don't know that is one of the revenge games that I would pick because I think it's a really tough game.
I don't know, Chris.
Yeah, I see the Vikings winning that. And I agree. The the Falcons do not look good in the passing game at all. And so I've got Pitts in one of my leagues also. I think the only sure person is London, that you can actually count on for some points. But even he's not going to pop and give you a bunch.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing too is Aaron Jones really wasn't having that good of a game until like towards the fourth quarter, and then he scored that touchdown. Bijan Robinson is doing amazing. Jordan Addison had a couple good weeks there, and then just kind of fell off. So sometimes I was like, I don't know if you can take a risk in playing a Jordan Addison.
Well, the whole thing with Addison is basically when the defenses, when they scheme for Justin Jefferson, then Addison goes off. And so that's what's really helping Minnesota is essentially they're forcing defensive coordinators to pick. And so when they pick, Addison can go off. But it is a tough call, because you don't know what is Atlanta going to try to do to take away from Minnesota. But Addison is still worth having on your bench. And again, if you don't have any choices, it's not a bad person to throw out.
Yeah. Chris, Panthers versus Eagles. This could potentially go all Eagles, or the Panthers actually lately with Bryce Young has been keeping these things close.
I would say I would definitely go Eagles. I think Saquon Barkley will have a huge game again. He's just been a stud. They've kept it with the running game. I think your receivers, you're just not seeing them the way you've seen them in the past, where Jalen Hurts needs to throw the ball a lot just because they're controlling the game. I think it's going to be a ground and pound with some pops, with some big plays in the passing game, but it's not going to be consistent. I think your best starts are Jalen Hurts and Saquon, your surefires. He has been going to Goddard a little bit more. I think Goddard kind of fell off the map for a little bit. I think you've got AJ Brown and I think Devonta is coming back.
Devontae Smith. Okay, yeah, I think he was out last week, but he should be back this week.
And so, but at the same time, I think they don't need to do a lot to win, and I don't think they're gonna force the issue.
Yeah, and remember, guys, Saquon is going for breaking Dickerson's record for the rushing, or is it Dickerson's record? Whoever has the rushing record.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Dickerson's record. So they're definitely going to be running him. This is also the biggest spread, guys. They're a 12-point favorite against Carolina. That is a lot of points. That one I'd be tempted to take Carolina because of the spread. But I agree, it's going to be ground and pound. They're going to control the line, but that always then is going to lead to the play action to a deep threat to an A.J. Brown. So I do feel like if you got A.J. Brown, you can still play him. This game should be over by the third quarter, but we'll see. Carolina has been putting up points.
Look at last week, right? We thought the Chiefs would handily beat the Panthers. Bryce Young, since he got benched, has actually done pretty well. Adam Thielen is doing well. He's got Jordan Brooks, who's starting to emerge with a Hubbard, so he's got two running backs that they can rely on. I don't know if you can count out. I mean, I don't think they're going to win, but I think they're going to keep it close.
Yeah, we need Tommy here so he could be, gushing about Adam Thielen because he loves Thielen. And yes, Thielen has gotten his points. You're right. Bryce Young has figured something out. So I'm not saying that they're not going to get their stats. I think you can play your Carolina guys, especially because if they're getting garbage points, it's still going to be worth it in fantasy. Yeah. I just don't think they're going to be anywhere close to it.
Who's your best receiver to start in Carolina right now? Is it Thielen?
I would say Thielen, yeah. I mean, it's either Thielen or Leggett, right? Yeah. And out of those two, I think Thielen's going to be the safety valve for him.
Particularly if you're PPR. I mean, Thielen has been the catch machine.
I mean, the other person that could potentially make it up there if you really need it is like a David Moore, who's like the third receiver because he's actually put up some decent numbers. But I think Thielen's the guy that you want to play in that team. So, yeah. Okay, two more games. Actually, Chargers versus Chiefs. I actually think that this could be potentially a really low-scoring game.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
The one thing I would say on here as far as players, I picked up Gus Edwards last week after Dobbins went down. Got nothing. I mean, I think he had 6 carries. So they clearly see. It's funny. He started the game. They clearly don't see him as a major contributor though. So I think if you were thinking of playing Gus Edwards, I'm actually not. I'm sitting him, dropped him in several leagues. So that's the one thing I'll say. But I agree with you. This could be a really a closer match than people might think.
Yeah.
Well, the question is, are the Chargers receivers going to catch the ball or are they not?
I think going to drop them.
Well,
yeah, Quentin Johnson.
McConkey will catch the ball.
Catches everybody.
I don't know about John still. McConkey
Is it
will, yeah.
McConkey out? I think McConkey's out for this
Is
week.
he out? Are you sure? Let me look.
I think so.
That's
Did I miss that? Or maybe not, because that's why I was looking at Quentin Johnson thinking like, oh, maybe he's a decent like pickup then.
he can't catch the ball.
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem.
Oh, you
He
know
gets
what?
open.
So he hurt his knee. He is still working through it. They're going to see how practice goes this week, but there's no reports whatsoever. So
Okay.
yeah,
Well,
but
pay
McConkey's
attention
good.
closely then.
So okay, so
Very
he's
good.
in our fantasy league, Jed. I mean, I don't know if I'll keep him, but I'm at least look. I got McCaffrey on that team. Okay, like I don't know if I'm going to keep McCaffrey, but McConkey might be somebody I might at least.
Oh,
take a look
long term, McConkey is definitely, if he's keeper league, he's definitely a
I
keeper.
would take
for sure.
McConkey.
Yeah.
The other one, I think with Isaiah Pacheco coming back last week, I think it kind of did hurt the Chiefs. I think.
Yeah, because they were rolling with Kareem Hunt and they couldn't figure out how to like incorporate him. I totally agree with you, Chris.
And so I think that piece they're going to start to figure that out. But also the Chiefs are looking to the playoffs.
Yep.
I think that's the way. That is the way Mahomes rolls. He just wants to get out of every week with a win, if possible. They don't even care about home field advantage. I really don't think so. I think Mahomes is like, just get me to the playoffs. We're going to win no matter what. I mean, look at what happened last year. Everybody was like, they suck. Then all of a sudden it's like, wow, nobody can beat them.
Yeah, I mean, this team is really insane. Going for 3 in a row. It's a great storyline for the NFL. I know a lot of everyone outside of Kansas City is not going to be cheering for them, but it's really pretty amazing. Like the combination of him and Andy Reid on the offensive mind side is just, it's like a match made in heaven. So
Well, it's
I agree.
hard to
We'll
choose
see,
a
Chris.
wide receiver. It's hard to choose a wide receiver to start. Xavier Worthy, DeAndre Hopkins. I think when not Hollywood Brown, before. Oh my goodness, who's the guy?
Meehan.
The guy that's on IR.
The rookie. Is it Meehan? Not Meehan. Meacham, not Meacham. Gosh, I know who exactly you're talking about.
So yeah, number four.
Yes, number 4.
Exactly. I mean, when he was a clear number 1. But now it's just like he's throwing the ball to whoever.
All right, Tommy's making some pickups.
No, I am actually. I'm actually looking at all the teams that have Patrick Mahomes on, and I'm switching them out for Russell Wilson right now.
Yeah, I know it.
Actually, he's my quarterback in the 1K. Like, no good quarterbacks out there, so I was just kind of taking a look at it right now. So, Jed knows when we go silent. It's because somebody said something.
He's making pickups.
He does look at our waiver wires. Yeah. Okay, last one. Dallas Cowboys. Who are they playing this week? They actually have a pretty good game.
Cincinnati at
Cincinnati.
Dallas.
Okay, yeah, Cincinnati.
Yeah.
I feel bad for Cincinnati. Cincinnati's been amazing on offense, but they keep losing these games. But from a fantasy perspective, those players, Higgins, Chris Brown, Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, I mean, they are all studs fantasy-wise.
Yeah, the Bengals are the fantasy team, your fantasy team that has like the most points for, but then the most points against, and so then they can't win in the season. So I've got Joe Burrow starting in 2 different leagues. Definitely can play your players. I expect this to be fairly high scoring. Vegas has it at 49.5. So other than the Green Bay Detroit game, this is the second highest scoring. So hopefully a lot of points. Get all of your offensive players in. Cooper Rush has been serviceable for Dallas. If you had a Cooper Rush in there, it's not necessarily a bad play.
Not bad, actually.
Yeah, exactly. Getting to CeeDee Lamb, and then I like the number 2 in Dallas. Who's the number 2 wide receiver? He's actually had a decent.
Tolbert.
Yeah, Tolbert.
Tolbert.
Yeah, Tolbert has been decent. So I mean, get your players in, but I do think Cincinnati is going to win this game, in my opinion. They're a 5-point favorite. I do think they're going
to win. Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys. Chris, this is your first podcast.
There you go.
Thanks for joining us.
Shirley, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for filling in. It's good to have you. Always good to have a fellow Bears sufferer, together with us.
Chris,
next time I'll wear my Illini stuff.
Chris,
I was going to say.
No, go ahead. Too bad you're at camp. Otherwise, you and I could get on one of those planes and go to this ASU game down there in Dallas this week.
Hey, Jimmy, if you told me I could do that, I would actually like say, hey, peace out. Although I am in the adult guest lodge, so
Yeah.
it's pretty tough.
Well, okay, so one of our co-pilots, I haven't told him this yet, but he's a grad of ASU. And he's going down for the day, and I bought him a ticket, and so he can go. And I was like, just go for two quarters, and then just come back, right? So,
that's so cool, man.
Yeah.
What's your prediction for the game, for that game? ASU, Iowa State.
I actually think ASU. I mean, ASU's got the momentum going, right?
Yeah.
Like even last week, ASU versus Arizona. Some people were saying that. I mean, Arizona would keep it close, but ASU destroyed Arizona. So I don't know. You'll see. I mean, I actually can see the upset being more on Penn State side versus Oregon, but I think ASU will.
And they've got Alabama making the playoffs if there are no upsets, which the upsets would need to be one of those teams that wasn't going to get in. So I'm trying to think, is it the ACC?
I actually think this 12-game playoffs is actually going to be pretty cool this year. I
love it. I love it. And guys, it's going to be so fun to watch, to have like the rounds, especially every week, to have the rounds to watch up. It's going to be awesome. And it's going to be great for college football. A lot more money.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a great thing, but man, for me, Alabama, if they get in, look out. Like, they're still a stacked team.
You think?
Man.
I don't know. They just
I would not want to play them. No, I'm telling you. Like, to me, at the end of the day,
they're not coached well. Yes, they're stacked, but I don't think they're going to pull off some upsets.
Oh no, we'll
they
see,
miss
man.
Saban.
Oh, by the way,
they do.
Did you guys see the Georgia Tech game last week? Did you guys watch any of that game at all?
Oh yeah.
8 overtimes. Yeah. I don't usually watch college sports on the Saturday night because I'm watching the NBA, but 8 overtimes last week.
Yeah.
You know who holds the record for the most overtimes?
Well, Illinois, 9.
University of Illinois against Penn State.
Yeah, they were talking.
Did they win? Did Illinois win that game?
Yeah, in 2021.
Nice. Dude, that's a good trivia.
I will say overtime in college is actually more exciting than
NFL. The NFL totally has to adopt it. The NFL should definitely.
I didn't realize. Well, yeah, after one overtime, then it was like, let's go to 2-point conversion.
Yeah, no, that's the
over and over.
That was great. Yeah.
No, the NFL should totally adopt. I hate the NFL overtime. The way it's like stacked right now. They should.
I was pulling for Georgia Tech in that game, by the way. Like, I wanted to see the upset so bad.
Yeah, they screwed it up.
Hey, Jed, for one of our NFL matchups, I wonder if we got 3 people on there. I wonder what it would be if we had like 4 or 5 people on there. It might be too much, but
for one of our podcasts.
Yeah, one of our podcasts.
Yeah, it just gets hard because everyone's kind of talking. Unless as the moderator, if you really direct who's going to talk and respond. Otherwise, I mean, so for a living I do market research, Chris. So one of the things I do is focus groups, like online focus groups. Okay. And if you have more than 6 in an online setting, it gets people are just
no. It's because you usually have that one guy. Even on an online thing where they're talking all the time, you just gotta if you listen to ESPN radio, there's one guy. Some guys they just call in and they talk all the time, and the host.
Let me know when you want to talk rookies. That's when I get excited.
I know Chris likes the rookies.
Okay.
Hey, I called a chain last year. Who else did I call last year, Jimmy?
No, you called. It was A Chain, and there was one guy,
there was a kid from Baltimore that then he tore his ACL.
Oh.
I would be
yes. I know who you're talking about.
You should watch this guy, and I'm like, oh, he went off. And
well, who you like in college right now, Chris? You think's going to make the transition?
I will tell you the Alabama rookie receiver or freshman receiver.
Yes,
crazy good.
Oh, crazy hands.
Right now, the quarterbacks. I'm not seeing the quarterbacks.
So you don't believe in the standards.
Deion's son.
I honestly don't think that the Boise State running back will have a great NFL career.
Interesting.
I think most of your ones that are just like that, he's not he doesn't play against good competition. I think that you're looking at somebody that's putting up great numbers that, he's better than everybody else. I need to do a little bit more research. I really like looking at height. I look at height, speed, hand size. And then you look at, especially I like looking at receivers, running backs. It's all about speed. And how they hit the gap.
I like receivers too. I think that they're always tricky. I think, this year is a good example with Marvin Harrison Jr. and Neighbors. Neighbors were looking great, but the whole trend of receivers really not hitting till year 2 and year 3 makes it hard to say if your prediction was right the first year they're in the NFL. Like usually they struggle a little bit, which is to me, I'm still a believer in Marvin Harrison. I think he's just gotta just needed some time to
Yeah.
figure things out.
Yeah.
So I'm expecting a bounce back year next year.
Well, this has been a unique year because usually I look at players and I'm looking at rookies to say, hey, it's going to be halfway through the year and they're going to win me my league. This year we haven't had those players.
Yep.
I think in the past it was a chain. There's some different ones that you're like, oh, that's going to be a league winner if they get in.
Yep.
Your first 5 or 6 weeks, you're waiting for somebody to get hurt.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly. That's normally been the case, but yeah, it has been. And this year has really been the resurgence to me of the running back, right? Like seeing Saquon Barkley, seeing Derrick Henry, seeing the guys who got super cheap. Teams got them for cheap, and now it's like, oh, you know what? The elite running backs, we need to pay them a little bit.
We need to pay them. Yeah.
And then you look at Brock Bowers. I think I had him in 2 of my 5 leagues as a rookie.
Nice.
I drafted him early, and so yeah, I agree. The problem was I already owned him in 2 other leagues before our draft for this one. And so I was like, yeah, I don't want to put too much in one player.
I would. All right, guys. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah, good to see everyone. Good luck.
See you next week.
Yeah, see you.
Yep.